for all the information that you've ever wanted to know from Israel around the world and even the great town of Modi'in. It is Hanoch Young with the Israel update on, what is it, March 9th already? Hanoch, how you doing? You over jet lag?
Yeah, finally over the jet lag. Finally back into my regular, incredibly poor sleep habits.
Okay.
Israel's abuzz because tourists are coming back, wonder of wonder, miracle of miracles. But of course, tour groups can't, as we discussed previously, can't typically gear up this quickly.
Yeah.
So, but things are happening. I have my first group coming in June.
Okay.
And I've got some possible opportunities before then, but I found out something today because I just came from an interview with a tour operator. And of course, at the end of the interview, they said, oh, by the way, for long-term possibilities, it's great that we met, but the stuff that we've got coming up, we're looking for guides in their 20s.
And to that, you said, well, I'm young.
Well, I'm forever young, but that's when I reached behind me for that Glock. That's just not there. Anyway, no, I was very well behaved. I was very nice. And I was muttering under my breath after I left, but that's okay. But they told me something today that they had found out, that tour operators had found out from the Ministry of Tourism. 30% of all licensed Israeli tour guides have left the profession in the last 2 years.
Wow.
And most of them were the younger ones.
Yeah.
These are the ones, with young kids at home, a family to support. They could not sit around and study the gospel accounts and the apostolic writings like I've been doing. So, they had to earn some money. So that's kind of interesting. I have a fear, though, that the guides that should have retired are still trying to be active, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's an interesting profession that you're in. I mean, the tour guides in Israel are all over. You walk around and somebody's asking you if they want to guide you. Trying to find and the reason I did not lead tours for a number of years is because I couldn't find a guide that I really could work with. And then, you come along and well, that changes everything. But
and then you compromised.
Yeah,
so it's okay.
I got it. I wasn't going to go there, but I'll let you. Hey, by the way, I'm seeing that there's some differences. They're rolling back more restrictions regarding some of the quarantines and things like that. It looks like things are headed really in the right direction.
Oh, without a doubt, things have been headed in the right direction. It hit us here very clearly that there was absolutely nothing that we could possibly do to stop the Omicron variant. What's interesting to me, though, is, to the best of my knowledge, America still to this day requires tourists coming in to be vaccinated. That hasn't changed yet. Although I do know that the US CDC is, saying that some states, whatever.
Yeah, we've got more politics. Everything here is driven by politics and sippy cups, and we don't want to go there. So, yeah.
No, there's no reason to. If any of our listeners are going to be showing up in Israel in the next couple of weeks to a month, and they want to know exactly what's going on, they can email me.
Yeah.
For those of our listeners that are coming with us on Connect, I expect a lot of things to settle way before October 31st when y'all land.
Yeah. Now, we've got a lot of settling.
You're coming from Franklin anyway.
Yeah, that's true. We've got a pile of people. We're almost going to get our own jet out of Atlanta at this point in time. Okay, so COVID is settling, and then there's this little thing that's happening over there. It's like, here's something else. You got a war just a little bit north of you, don't you?
Well, it's really amazing. Everyone is, looking at what's happening in Ukraine with the Russian troops. And the most astounding thing was when Shabbat ended here, and I went on to check the news to find out that Prime Minister Bennett and Minister Ze'ev Elkin, who was born there, and he's been interpreting with Putin for the last 12 or 14 years back in the Netanyahu days, flew to Moscow on Shabbat.
Wow.
They're both Dati Jews. They're both religious Jews. Yeah. We do not do that, except in one of two conditions. Pikuach nefesh, to save a life, or it was a matter of national security. And in this case, I think it was both.
Both, yeah.
Astoundingly, out of all the democracies in the world, Israel is the only one that has good relationships with the government of Russia and the government of Ukraine. It puts us in a very strange but unique position.
Yeah, it does. No doubt.
Now, I also want to mention again, so we of the Church of Latter-day Pharisees, we do not use our phones on Shabbat. We don't do any of those regular day activities as we define it. Chabad, who has shlichim, emissaries throughout Ukraine, worked through Shabbat, calling people to tell them how to, get out, where to go, where there will be buses to pick them up, over what borders they could be taken, and how they could be flown to Israel or other countries. So it's really amazing. Now, one of the things that hit me is one of the Chabad centers outside of Kiev, or Kyiv, as it's pronounced now. It's amazing. We grew up, there was Peking, there was Bombay, there was Kiev. And now all of us, everything has changed. Yeah. So please, the next time I'm in Franklin, don't tell me it's Franklin or something, really, yeah. Let's keep the names.
No, that's not happening. We have Chris here to make sure that it has a very good Southern accent. Okay.
Excellent. The Chabad Center was in a town called Anatevka.
Okay.
What do we need in Anatevka? Fiddler on the Roof, man. They were in Anatevka.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Bingo. So it's really bizarre. What's more bizarre about this situation is Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, for how much longer we don't know, is Jewish. Putin, out of all the demagogues that have controlled Russia and or the Soviet Union, different name, meet the new boss, same as the old boss, is the most positively disposed to Jews and Israel than any leader that the Russians or the Soviets have ever had. So it's a very odd situation. Meanwhile, we're trying to get Jews out. Ukraine, from what I understand, already has 2 million refugees. And there's a problem that we have here in Israel. The leftists want to open our doors and accept anyone and everyone from Ukraine.
Yeah.
We already have 20,000 Ukrainians that are either visa or have stayed illegally. Non-Jews who do not qualify under the law of return, which is basically if you have one Jewish grandparent, you can come to Israel. Bizarre. Topic of another conversation. Yeah. So Ayelet Shaked, our Minister of the Interior, she's wonderful, is trying to cap it at 5,000 more. Already, Israel has accepted more Ukrainian refugees per capita than any country in the world not on the borders of Ukraine. Why us? Why not the United States? Why not Canada? Australia. Western Australia has finally opened up after 2 years of lockdown.
Yeah.
Send them there. Anyway.
Well, yeah, that's
fascinating.
That's an issue of our border policy and a number of things. Interesting enough, I read an article the other day that Zelensky is actually the reason he got into politics was because of his dealings. He looked to Justin Trudeau and thought he was a big hero. And this article went on to talk about that Zelensky is aligned with this worldwide movement about a great reset. So, there's all kinds of little
Not my
things.
issue.
Yeah, all kinds of little nuances behind the scenes. And
Zelensky played the Ukrainian president on a TV sitcom. I mean, he did. Think of it as Martin Sheen from The West Wing is now president of the United States. Although I got to tell you, even though he was very liberal, a lot of people would say, "Come on down, come on, Martin Sheen, where are you, man?"
Yeah,
Bartlett, Bartlett.
Yeah, we're trying to find anybody that's awake right now, but that's another issue. So what's the general attitude in Israel, the Israeli population regarding this war?
There's tremendous concern and there's tremendous support of the Ukrainians.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me share some insight from my teacher, Rav Meir Kahana, who said there are no allies, there are only interests. Let me explain.
Okay.
Let me explain. The United States and Israel, we describe ourselves as allies, but I don't believe the United States is our ally. When it is in the interest of the United States, as perceived by whoever's in charge, to be allied with Israel, they are. Between 1948 and 1967, had us under a total arms embargo. We were desperate to buy weapons, never asked for American troops. So America is on the verge of this deal with Iran, which puts us in a situation that we have to figure out a way to go to war and survive it.
Yeah.
And, Putin was empowered by seeing the Americans surrender in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the timing is not different. Here's the other thing. In 2015, the Russian military essentially took over Syria. For the last 7 to almost 8 years, we have had an agreement with the Russians that have allowed us to continually bomb Iranian munitions supplies in Syria. That relationship, again, that is our interest. Mm-hmm. The security of Israelis and secondarily of Jews worldwide is what concerns the government of Israel. Morally, we all feel for the Ukrainians.
Sure.
As anyone with a heart would. But we have to deal with the Russians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we could get into some prophetic things. I'm sure there a lot of people are talking about that, but in the end, it's much better to watch prophecy being walked out on a daily basis. All these people that try to look at Scripture and come up with, well, this is the formula and this is what's going to happen. How many times are they right? I figure probably in the days of Noach, there were people that were trying to figure out, is Noah got the right formula or something? But it just doesn't work.
Especially once the rain started.
Yeah. Once the rain started, he was no longer a conspiracy theorist. Okay, it appears that there is also at the same time an empowerment. You talked about the debacle out of the disaster, I'll put a different word, the disaster of Afghanistan led to the empowerment of Putin to go into Ukraine.
Absolutely.
You know, evil is empowered by evil. When it appears on the surface that evil is winning, it empowers evil in a spiritual realm that goes everywhere. Enter in the seeming. Now, I'm looking at news from here. You have a different perspective. It appears that there is an uptick in violence from the Palestinians, the Arabs. Is that true?
Yes.
In Israel specifically.
Yeah. We recently, just this past week, had 2 incidents in Jerusalem where Arabs coming off the Temple Mount. And again, remember, when we go up to the Harabai, the Temple Mount, we have to be screened. We have to go through a metal detector.
Yeah.
The Arabs, the Muslims, do not.
Yeah.
So they come right off the Temple Mount and immediately they go to stab police officers. In both cases, the officers were lightly wounded and the terrorist was eliminated. The thing that was a little disconcerting is I was in Jerusalem with an old buddy of mine from the tour guides course. You know, now that we're, you know, she wanted to refamiliarize herself with stuff. And we walked right past that area. We were there 20 minutes before the stabbing. But Ramadan is coming up within the month.
Yeah.
It's always hard to keep track of Ramadan because they don't adjust it seasonally. So it just, you know, it's like a running date, so to speak. And that's always a time. And again, it's in the interests of Hamas to keep like a slow boil on things. So yeah.
I'm seeing that the Jews assaulted by Arabs in central Israel. News was the attacks again back in the old country of New York. It appears that it's just kind of elevating at all times here.
Yeah. The amount of physical violence on Jews worldwide is at a peak that it hasn't been since the 1930s.
Okay. So you got to spend a little time with one of my favorite people in the world, Yudi Marotz. How's Yudi doing?
He's always so calm and so welcoming and wants to jump up and get water.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Cardo, as I shared with you and our listeners a few months back, 3 of the main stores are gone. It's not, and again, this is Israel that's opened up to tourism. So you see tourists now, you do. But, shops didn't make it.
No.
They just did not make it.
Yeah, the rent is astronomical in any of those places.
Yeah. No, it is. And you can only hold on for so long.
Yeah. It appears you got to spend a little time with Moshe. Was Dove there also?
No, unfortunately not. I missed Dove this time, but it was great seeing them. A lot of stuff going on in the old city, a lot of changes in the Davidson Center, the Wall Center, the Kotel tunnels, the Western Wall tunnels, everything, Ir David, the city of David, everything is shifting and renovating and happening. So there'll be lots of great things for you and all of our friends coming on Connect. They'll get to see some really, even the ones that have been with us in the past, because we do have a few graduates that will be with us this time. But there's one thing I wanted to mention. I did notice gas prices when I was in America.
Oh yeah.
As people were driving me around, or as you like to say, driving Miss Daisy. So I know what's going on. So I just wanted to share a little perspective from an Israeli. Now, when you look at our gas pumps, it's deceptive because, first of all, the measurement is in liters.
Yes.
Which, you know, let's just say most of the Americans that I know are slightly unfamiliar with the metric system. So let's leave it at that. And also the prices are then in shekels,
Mm-hmm.
which is okay. So let me convert it to dollars per gallon. The current price of gas, petrol in Israel, is $8.30 per gallon, of which $5.20 are taxes. So you would think more of my countrymen and women would get bikes like Pee Wee Herman and, just, kind of just cycle around a little bit. Electric bikes are a big thing here, by the way. But it's, I just, and by the way, and we don't have a Keystone Pipeline option to reconsider after the next election.
Yeah. Well, you do have some drilling going up in the north with the Zion Natural Oil or National Oil and Gas. That's been going on for quite some time. It's kind of an interesting project because I read the book that I can't remember his name, was the head of this, and he actually looked at the scriptures and saw that where it says Asher shall dip his foot in oil. Yeah. And looked at all these prophecies and said, there's got to be oil in that area. So they've been, even through the pandemic, they've been putting up the drilling rigs, and they've been drilling, right. And the casings are in, and it's kind of an interesting. So if you imagine the possibility that in the midst of this whole thing with Russia and Ukraine, that the news came out that Israel has struck oil. That could change a lot of things.
I think we're doing a little better offshore.
Yeah.
With that, because when I hear that, and of course I'm familiar with that prophetic statement, mm-hmm. I think to myself, what if it was a reference to olive oil? What if it's so it's like kind of like let's not get our hopes up.
Yeah.
So anyway, we don't know. We don't.
What if it's a reference to both?
Yeah. But just back to the Ukraine issue, Israel will be absorbing a number of Jewish Ukrainian refugees. An orphanage of 100 kids just came over the other day, and I think certainly outside of the former Soviet countries, I think we in Israel have the highest concentration of Russian speakers. I'm not totally sure about Ukrainian speakers, but we've got plenty of them too.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, appreciate your insights as always, and we do have a couple of spots still on the Connect to Israel tour. I know that right now people are kind of maybe hesitant regarding signing up, but you get your spot, it's there. And we make decisions as we go. I'm telling people right now, I just had a conversation last night. No, don't buy your plane tickets at the moment. I don't even look, I never look at plane tickets prior to about June anyway. But we've got the hotels, we've got everything already set up, and it's looking like it's going to be a great, great time. So, all right. Well, hey, after with all the stuff, be safe. All right. At least until after the tour.
See you. See y'all soon. Bye, guys.
Take care.